Give everything you can for kids who you don't know, but who deserve a chance. And just look at how much good you can do. Chris Baldwin has lived by those words. He's the other person we're honoring here tonight. Many of you are here because of Chris. What makes Chris great is hard to describe because, in my view, Chris's unique attribute does not concern his professional accomplishments, which are considerable, but instead the way he makes people around him feel. If he's got your back, you feel bold, strong, courageous, and inspired. When I first met Chris in 2011, I needed a dose of that feeling. Harlem Lacrosse at that point was still only an idea. We had no money, little proof of concept, and importantly, we had no real connection to the lacrosse world. I heard there's 470 people here. I'm probably about the 300th best lacrosse player because I assume 170 of you do not play lacrosse. The vast majority of nonprofits die at the stage that we were at when I met Chris. And at a random diner one morning in New York. And Marty Barrington, if you're watching, the introduction you gave me to Chris was one of the greatest gifts that I've ever received. It was a fairly bold introduction because Chris really had no business getting involved with our little rinky-dink operation. He was nearing the peak of his career. He was chairing the board of a major hospital, and he was balancing a deep commitment as a father, a husband, a son, a brother, and an uncle. The man had much more important things to do than eat a bagel with me that morning. And I don't know what it was that made Chris say yes right away. Maybe it was his working class upbringing. Maybe it was the underdog mentality he acquired as a result of his siblings getting all the good genes in the Baldwin family. Maybe it was the fact that Chris wildly outkicked his coverage in marriage and consequently stayed humble despite his many successes. But Chris chose us. So it's my job now to tell you what Chris won't say when we drag him up here in a moment. The numbers he's going to be talking about, the student achievement, the successes, the depth and breadth of our mission, that doesn't happen without Chris. He has ushered this organization through calculated risks, rapid growth, leadership evolution, austerity measures, and a pandemic. He has always made Harlem Lacrosse and the children it serves a priority. And like many of our board members, many of them, Chris has made Harlem Lacrosse a family affair. His daughters, Elena and Becky, have tutored our kids and helped with our marketing. His brothers have helped our kids get into college. The commitment has not always been easy. In one of our more challenging periods, Chris told me, and Chris, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, that a main reason you've decided to stick with Harlem Lacrosse in the long term is that your daughters think it's the coolest thing you do. Alina and Becky, you're the best. And Linda, thank you for making your family into what it's become. What an achievement. Chris has been a friend, a mentor, a colleague for over a decade, but today Chris Baldwin's more family to me than any other description, and it's a privilege to introduce you as an honoree of our 10th anniversary benefit. Thank you.
Hell yeah, I outkicked my coverage. That's for damn sure. First of all, it is, Simon, thank you for your kind words. They're arguably far from true. I got a lot of brothers here. They're taking bets on how much of it was actually true. I'll take the under on $50. Look, I wanted to, especially after the last few years, I'm grateful to be with you here in person. And hello to all the folks joining virtually. We're so happy to have everyone here and who we have virtually as part of this great evening. I particularly wanted to say hello to Kate Barrington. Kate is hosting a watch party at her home in Houston tonight. Kate is, I think, volunteer number 3, 4, or 5 at Harlem Lacrosse, and she's a shining star in our story. Her dad, Marty, introduced me to Simon, as he mentioned earlier, about 11 years ago, maybe 12, 13. This COVID thing, we count funny now. And at some level, for me, the rest is history. I want to start from the beginning. Our vision is bold, and our kids have taught us to see what was possible. Harlem Lacrosse is designed to break the cycle of generational poverty, to alter the life trajectory of young people through social, personal, and academic support. While this great game is an important part of what we do at Harlem Lacrosse has really nothing to do with after-school sports. Our program directors are full-time employees who are in school with our students all day, every day. Program directors work with teachers, lead study halls, manage behavior, and lead by example. They do this all day, every day. All day, every day are four very important words that are the foundation of what makes the model at Harlem Lacrosse a little bit different than other programs like it. When we do our jobs well, we have the ability to activate the skill sets necessary to help each child reach their full potential, whatever the heck that potential may be. We do this work one student at a time. Harlem Lacrosse was always a big, big idea. But at the beginning, the idea only lived in their hearts and minds. Look what you did, fellas. We knew we had an idea. These kids made us believe in the scale of what we might be able to achieve. It started with these 11 middle school students and a coach on a handball court. And what tonight is really about is the young men who had the courage to go first. I think it's important to note that because they believed in themselves and in us before we could show them a well-crafted mission statement or a nifty logo, before we could take them on college tours, when our travel budget was a damn subway token, because we had no money to put them on a bus to take them to a game, before we had sponsors and fundraisers, before we had fancy graphs and charts to prove to you that this thing works. Back then, we had plenty of doubters. We had a few whistles, a Band-Aid box, used gloves with holes in them that stunk to high heaven, and we only had enough lacrosse balls to do whole team line drills. For those of you who played college lacrosse at some fancy place and you carried buckets of balls out to do shooting drills, think about that for a minute. They were here before we had thousands of students across 5 cities earning $60 million in scholarships and over 300 students on a path to earn college degrees. I go back to my initial comments. When these students earn a high school diploma or a college degree, we have started the process of breaking the back of generational poverty. We're here tonight because those first boys had the courage to step onto a handball court, holding a lacrosse stick, and take a chance on something new. In the classroom, our students succeed despite having every single reason not to. The odds are stacked against them. On the field, our players have been outskilled at times and out-resourced every single time. But I can tell you with 100% confidence, none of them has ever been out-hustled. So thank you to our first 11 young men. We credit you with inspiring us. Every single person of the 3,000 who have, since you, participated in Harlem Lacrosse, stand on your shoulders. While our first team proved to us that Harlem Lacrosse was a big idea, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the people in this room who made it even bigger. Because of your generosity, the scale of this program is beginning to approach the size of our dreams. Let me give you a sense of what we, as a team in this room, have accomplished. As I just said, we started with nothing. We had idea and no money. Before Harlem Lacrosse was officially organized, we took our first trips out of the city in 2009. We went to Concord, Massachusetts, and to Baltimore, Maryland. We did our first Harlem Lacrosse student trip to a college campus in 2012. That trip was sponsored by Dom Starsia and his team at UVA. Dom is also one of the shining stars at Harlem Lacrosse. Our first students went to boarding school in 2011. Carlos went to the Petty School and then to Colby College. Carlos is now, as Simon mentioned, a board member at Harlem Lacrosse. Miles went to Kent and then Bates. Marlique went to the Petty School and then Dickinson College. We raised $100,000 for the first time in 2012. I'd ask you to remember that number. We started our first women's program in 2013. We expanded to a new city for the first time in 2014 with the launch of Harlem Lacrosse, Baltimore, and man, did we fight about that one. Chris Saylor, a Hall of Famer in my mind and in everybody's mind. Chris is in her last season as the head coach at Princeton. She joined our board in 2015, and suddenly we had a credible women's program. We merged with Los Angeles City Lacrosse in 2017, hired Mike as our first CEO. Spend a few minutes with Mike if you can tonight. Mike is an educator in his soul, and he's a massive part of what Harlem Lacrosse has accomplished. But importantly, that LA Lacrosse deal that we did to get Mike would never have happened without the leadership of Doc O'Connor. Doc's sitting over there. Owen Van Arsdale coached our first high school program, and he won a city championship in 2017. I will tell you, that was a cool day. Chuck Leitner led the effort to combine Harlem Lacrosse and Metro Lacrosse in 2018, creating real scale for us in Boston. Thank you, Chuck. I think he's over there. It starts to get better now. Our first student earned an Ivy League admit in 2019, and the list goes on and on. In the past 10 years, we've sent over 200 students to prep school, and over 300 students are on a path to get a college degree. We have started 21 women's programs, resulting in our very first D1 scholarship by any student in Harlem Lacrosse being earned by a woman. How cool is that? Diamond is now a junior student athlete at UMBC. As Simon mentioned, 3 members of that first team, they're back in the classroom, but here at Harlem Lacrosse as program directors. And now it's time for our biggest play yet. It's time to double down on the commitment we've made to our students and to make that commitment in their communities. In the past, most Harlem Lacrosse programs have stopped after middle school. While we have a few high school programs, Harlem Lacrosse largely ends after middle school when some of our students are admitted to prep schools, and we move forward from there. The success we have had is self-evident, particularly when we can serve our students through high school. Harlem Lacrosse students who participate in our high school programs are simply thriving. They are graduating at a rate of 98%. They are enrolling in college at a rate of 88%, and they are persisting in college at a rate of 93%. All considerably better than their in-school peers and their national averages. We have a responsibility to serve them and to do so in their communities. The money we raise tonight will ensure that every single student has access to Harlem Lacrosse programming from the 6th grade through high school in their community. In the next 18 months, we will launch new high school programs in New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Boston, and Los Angeles. This will more than double our number of high school programs, ensure that every single student who starts in Harlem Lacrosse and middle school will have their chance to participate through high school in their community. Tonight, thanks to you and your incredible generosity, we've already raised almost 5 times the next largest fundraising event in the history of Harlem Lacrosse. I ask you to remember that number in 2012. Our fundraising in 2022 will be 75 times what we raised in 2012. Think about that for a minute. Because of your generosity of spirit, 11 has turned into 1,300. One coach has turned into 56 full-time employees serving students. One city has turned into 5, and now one program has turned into 46. Every single one of them will focus on one student at a time, and they'll do it all day, every day. Thank you again for being here with us tonight, and thank you for the last 10 amazing years. Thank you for supporting Harlem Lacrosse. While we've made some progress, we feel like we're just getting started. I can't wait to see what these young men and women do to the world in the next 10 years. Thank you.